what's the time? Okay, I'm inclined to read the whole thing because I like scripture to speak for itself, so I'm going to read the whole thing. Okay. 27 verses then. In the third year of King Belshazzar's reign, I, Daniel, had a vision after the one that had already appeared to me. In my vision, I saw myself in the citadel of Susa in the province of Elam. In the vision, I was beside the Ulai Canal. I looked up, and there before me was a ram with 2 horns, standing beside the canal, and the horns were long. One of the horns was longer than the other, but grew up later. I watched the ram as he charged towards the west and the north and the south. No animal could stand against him, and none could rescue from his power. He did as he pleased and became great. As I was thinking about this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between his eyes came from the west, crossing the whole earth without touching the ground. He came towards the 2-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and charged at him in great rage. I saw him attack the ram furiously, striking the ram and shattering his 2 horns. The ram was powerless to stand against him. The goat knocked him to the ground and trampled on him, and none could rescue the ram from his power. The goat became very great, but at the height of his power, his large horns was broken off, and in its place 4 prominent horns grew up toward the 4 winds of heaven. Out of one of them came another horn, which started small, but grew in power to the south and to the east and toward the beautiful land. It grew until it reached the host of the heavens, and it threw some of the starry host down to the earth and trampled on them. It set itself up to be as great as the prince of the host. It took away the daily sacrifice from him, and the place of his sanctuary was brought low. Because of rebellion, the host of the saints and the daily sacrifice were given over to it. It prospered in everything it did, and truth was thrown to the ground. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to him, "How long will it take for the vision to be fulfilled? The vision concerning the daily sacrifice, the rebellion that causes desolation, and the surrender of the sanctuary and of the host that will be trampled underfoot." He said to me, "It will take 2,300 evenings and mornings. Then the sanctuary will be reconsecrated." While I, Daniel, was watching the vision and trying to understand it, there before me stood one who looked like a man. And I heard a man's voice from the Ulai calling, "Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of the vision." As he came near the place where I was standing, I was terrified and fell prostrate. "Son of man," he said to me, "understand that the vision concerns the time of the end." While he was speaking to me, I was in a deep sleep with my face to the ground. Then he touched me and raised me to my feet. He said, "I'm going to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath, because the vision concerns the appointed time of the end. The 2-horned ram that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat is the king of Greece, and the large horn between his eyes is the first king. The 4 horns that replaced the one that was broken off represent 4 kingdoms that will emerge from this nation, but will not have the same power. In the latter part of their reign, when rebels have become completely wicked, a stern-faced king, a master of intrigue, will arise. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause astounding devastation and will succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy the mighty men and the holy people. He will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many and take his stand against the prince of princes. Yet he will be destroyed, but not by human power. The vision of the evenings and mornings that has been given you is true, but seal up the vision, for it concerns the distant future. I, Daniel, was exhausted and lay ill for several days. Then I got up and went about the king's business. I was appalled by the vision. It was beyond understanding. Can you go back to that, please, Yukta? Who would want... No, stay there. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Daniel. It's just the last verse, bro. That's all I wanted to just... Sorry. Everything is becoming hard work, sorry. I, Daniel, was exhausted. Who would be a servant of God? He was exhausted. And he lay ill for several days out of a vision. And notice what happened. Then he got up and he went about the king's business. He went back to work. Lots of people, when they have all these things about the end times, they want to move away from work and they want to go and put themselves in a holy huddle. Daniel went back to work. He went back to the king's business. Nobody could understand, he says. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Yoktan, I'll try to stick to the script, and all these movings just messes up everybody, doesn't it? Okay, Daniel chapter 8, a puzzling vision of ram and a goat. So we've reminded ourselves, I showed a little film clip to remind us of the journey of Daniel so far. And we have called this series, God who is sovereign over everyone and everything. God who is sovereign over everyone and everything. Sovereign, the sovereignty of God. That tells us that God is the ruler of the universe. God is free and he has the right to do whatever he wants. How do you like that comment? God is free and has the right to do whatever he wants. I know most of the times we don't like that comment. I tend not to like that comment. But he does, because he's God. He is in complete control over earth events. Absolutely complete control over earth events. So when we talk about the sovereignty of God, these are some of the things that we're reminding ourselves of: the nature, the character, and the attributes of God. So the first part, as I said, and as you saw up there, chapters 1 to 6 is mostly about miracles. The second part is mostly prophetic. It's about prophecy. The Apostle Paul would say, do not underestimate and devalue the place of prophecy in the church. It's one of the things that I notice churches are not very good at. We don't hear the prophetic voices. And yet it's one of the gifts that the Apostle Paul would say, don't allow the prophetic voice to die among you. Now, something of the prophetic voice can be heard through preaching, but there's also such a thing called the gift of prophecy. I wonder who among us have got that gift. It's an interesting question. Today we're looking at chapter 8. This is what is called apocalyptic literature. Apocalyptic, the Greek meaning the unveiling. So such literature is full of imagery, as you can see, from which the Bible tries to teach something about the present and about the future. And we read about that a short while ago. There's something about the short-term present, as it were, and there's something about the long-term future that is being conveyed. And we will try to grapple with that this morning as we look at chapter 8. Now remember, friends, that we learn about Daniel and his friends. But I want to suggest to you, please, and I know this is sometimes a mistake that we make, because we say, you know, I want to be like Daniel. Well, that is, I understand why we say that, but I would want to say to us, even more important, learn of who Daniel's God is. Because this is all about God. If we've made this about Daniel, then I certainly have failed in my role as pastor. My job is to point you to God, not to Daniel. Or we learn from Daniel and his interaction with God and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but it's to point you to God. So even more important, of more significance, is that we learn about God. The children of Israel, we remind ourselves, they disobeyed God, they were in exile, they were in Babylon. This happened in 3 stages, the exile. The first stage